And hello again, and while Barney here has a well-earned rest after a good long walk, we can talk about progress with the Z. And so here we have my cam cover, which as you can see I've just repainted. Now it was already black and it wasn't too bad, a few chips and dents in it, but nothing too difficult to remove. So I didn't take the whole of the original black finish off, I just cleaned it up a little bit and then sprayed it. And at which point I got into a bit of a panic because I painted it with this stuff, Simon's Satin Black Tough Paint, which have been recommended to me on various forums, including the Z1 Honours Club. And they said, yeah, it works fine, off we go. And I used this stuff because I wanted a satin black finish. I didn't want gloss, I didn't want matte black, I wanted satin black. So having done that, I thought, yeah, it looks pretty damn good, let's carry on. But then I had a bit of a panic because I thought, hang on a minute, this doesn't say anywhere it's made for high temperatures, i.e. for an engine. So I had this sudden thought, said, oh God, I've got the wrong paint, the wrong code or something, and if I put this on an engine, and if the engine gets hot, the whole thing's going to blister and fall off. So I had a bit of a panic, as I say, but then it turned out that was not really needed, because if you look at the top of this can here, it's got a code on it, and it says SIM VHT 51D. And the important part of that is VHT, which stands for very high temperatures. So this is indeed made for high temperatures, and I'm pretty safe to use it on the engine, thank God. So we'll put that to one side because that's now done. The next job then is to do this rather grotty sump. And I made a start on it. I've probably spent about an hour on this so far, trying to clean it up, get all the old paint off, ready for paint. And so far I've only used just wet and dry sandpaper, done it all by hand, and to be honest, it's a hell of a job. It's going to take hours and hours and hours. Yeah, the flat bits are easy, but getting to all these little hollows and in between the fins, it's just a nightmare. So I could carry on with that, or I could even get my drill out and use a wire brush on it, and that would speed things up a little bit. But then again, since I know a man who owns a workshop with a bee blaster, I'm going to hopefully take it to him, and in 10 minutes I'll have the whole damn thing cleaned up, ready for paint. Now, going back in time though, you may remember in previous videos I've talked about getting this engine blasted back down to bare metal, or rather bare alloy, because I wanted to go maybe for a silver finish. And to do that, I was going to have it vapor blasted. And there we hit a problem. And the problem is that, in fact two problems, is that first of all, because the engine is already black, painted black, it turns out that vapor blasting won't actually remove that black finish. Instead, it's got to be dry blasted first, or standard bee blasted if you like, and then it can be vapor blasted. Okay, fine, I said, no problem. Well, one problem is it's going to cost a lot more money, and if you add up all the various parts I want to have cleaned up for the whole engine, you're looking at about £300 to £400, which is getting on a bit, I thought. But then, you know, it's a lot of work, I guess, it's a lot of time. But I did think that that sort of level of price was getting a little bit over the top. But then the specialist I was going to use, he told me, yeah, no problem mate, bring along the sump and the cam cover, I can do them no problem, but I can't do the crankcases, which I thought was a bit strange. But why not? He said it's because I need to dry blast them first, yeah, and the crankcases are too big to fit in my blasting cabinet, so I can't do it. So I said, well, what shall I do? He says, well, go away, get them bee blasted elsewhere, then bring them to me and I'll vapor blast it. And I thought, that's a lot of hassle, a lot of grief. And to be honest, all the while I've been in two minds about whether to have the engine silver, bare alloy, or black, the original black of the GPZ engine. And with all the hassles I've gone through so far, I thought, hang on a minute, I'll just paint the whole thing black, keep it black. And so we'll come back then when I've been to my mate's workshop and had this sump cover bee blasted in his cabinet. Might cost me a few biscuits, but it's well worth it because I'm getting damn sick of trying to get this thing clean by hand. So we'll come back when that's been done. And now here we are the next day, and I've done some more work on the sump plate using my drill and wire brushes such as this cup and this wheel, and that's got most of the old paint off. Still a few bits and bobs here and there, but it is really difficult to get in to some of these small areas here. But pretty much I think it's now ready for paint. I've decided not to take it to the workshop and have it be blasted because I don't think I can get to the place for the next few days. I'm pretty much stuck at home, and to be honest, this is not too bad at the moment. I think it will paint quite well. And after all, it is just a subplate. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, because no one's going to see it when it's on the bike, apart from me maybe. And yeah, as long as I get a good even coat and a good tough coat, I'm pretty happy. So now let's go and get it painted. And now here it is, the next day, with about 4 or 5 coats of that satin black paint. And overall, I think it turned out pretty well. Is it absolutely perfect? Probably not, but then again, it is just a subplate. Anyway, with that done, let's see what's next. And now it's time to address the crankcases. It's going to be quite a long job, I think, but at least I don't need to remove all this black enamel paint off the engine cases, because that would be a hell of a job. Yes, it's a bit faded here and there, a bit scratched, but overall it's not that bad. So what I'm going to do is to clean it all up, degrease it, get it ready for paint, mask everything off, and then give it a few coats of that satin black paint. So I've come prepared. I've got brushes, toothbrushes, wire brushes, and a big 5-litre can, or carton rather, of gunk. Brought the case outside in the back garden so I can make a mess without too much of a problem. So yeah, it's going to be a long job, I think, but needs must. So come back when I've finished. And now here we are, a few hours later, and to be honest, I wish I never started, because the oil and the grit and the grease that's baked onto this case is proving very difficult to remove. Gunk, it doesn't seem to do very much. It's not that powerful, I don't think, not that potent. So I've reverted to using a sort of cheap version of WD-40. That doesn't work too badly. And also just standard washing up liquid. And that doesn't work too bad either. But to be honest, I mean, you just go it over and over again, and it's just not coming off. I think the oil and the grit and the grease is just hard baked on, and anything I do just isn't really working. Particularly when I'm working with little grooves and bits here, and on the underside here, look, you've got these grooves. It's very difficult to get in there and get the damn thing clean. So yes, I'm going to clean, but not clean enough for paint. That's the main point. So I'm going to give up, because this was a job I really shouldn't have done, and instead I think I'll wait and take these cases to my mate's workshop where he's got a bead blaster, and hopefully I can blast it, and that'll remove all this baked on grease and oil and God knows what else is on here. And no doubt, given enough time, I can also remove all this original finish. But I don't want to do that, because I want to paint this damn thing black, and so there's no need to remove any decent finish that's already on here. However, I have noticed that someone's been here before me and touched up this case in the past with black paint, and they didn't do a very good job, because I can see some drips and marks and whatever. So I will have to remove that before I attempt to spray the whole thing. But anyway, lesson learned, and I'm never ever going to try and clean up some engine cases ever again. I'll take it somewhere else and let them do it, because doing it by hand, it's just, you know, just a nightmare, just a nightmare. So anyway, at least I tried. So we'll come back when I can take this thing, as I say, to my mate's workshop, and we'll see if his bead blaster can do the job. And now here we are, a few days later, and here we have the sump that I resprayed in satin black a few days ago, and it turned out quite well. I've also painted the cam cover the same colour, but I'm afraid there's a change of plan, because now I'm going to spray it gloss black rather than satin black, and there's a good reason for that, which I'll come to in a moment. But first, let's get the first coat of this high temperature gloss black on here, and we'll see how it looks. I'll just go and do a very light coat first. A bit of a key. There we go, mad. There we go. Something at this side. Okay, just a very light coat. There we go, mad. Now this paint is also from Simon X, and just a gloss black version of the satin black I used before. It's also, of course, high temperature, so that should be fine. And the reason I'm changing to this stuff is because I had real problems trying to clean up and prepare the engine cases for paint. And in the end, after spending hours and hours and hours on it, I just gave up. And instead, I've taken the cases and the newly machined block to a specialist called Crankcase, which is quite local to me, and they're going to give it a very high-tech ceramic finish in gloss black. I did want satin black, but sadly that's not available in that finish. And in the meantime, I'm going to respray the cam cover and this sump and all the other bits and bobs on the engine to match. So that's the first coat done, and I'll come back in about, let me see, half an hour or so. Yeah, 20 minutes to half an hour. You're going to wait between coats, and then once you're finished, you've got to leave the whole thing for about 24 hours to cure and harden, just the same as the satin black I used a while ago. So that's that done then. I'll now put that there. I'll go off and drink some more tea, and I'll come back in about half an hour for the second coat. Okay, second coat, here we go. Around this side now. Forgetting this side. And there's the second coat done, and I think, looking at this now, one more coat should complete the job. And now here we are next day, and that gloss black enamel's now dry, and I must say I'm pretty happy with that. It's a lot better than I expected, so yeah, pretty good. And next up then is to paint the cam cover, but I'll spare you the video of that because it's pretty damn boring, and we'll see how it looks when it's finished. And finally, here's the cam cover, and just like the sump cover, it's turned out pretty well. Pretty happy with that. And I gave it about 3 coats of the black enamel paint. So I must say, let's just look at this here. This is in shot, yeah, it's pretty much. This gloss black enamel is pretty good stuff. Now, this is quite a large tin. It's 500 millilitres. But I must say, I don't think you'd quite get a complete engine painted with just 1 can. But certainly 2 cans would be more than enough. So yeah, I certainly would use this again, and I certainly do recommend it. So that's a big plus from me. So anyway, now this can go back on the shelf because, as I say, I'm now waiting about 3 weeks to get the cases and block back from Crankcase, and once they're back, I've got to save up for all the parts I need to complete the engine. So for now then, thanks for watching, and cheers.